boys and girls, time for your report. A little bit late in the day, probably a bit more like the usual time, however, I had a busy one today. So, let's crack on. Fair amount to go through. I'll tag on a link here for something that was spotted during the week past the Institute for Government. And we really need to get this particular article out there. Basically, a lady by the name of Rutter harped on about how medicinalising e-cigs and how people are attacking it from government point of view is wrong. So we'd love to see that spread everywhere if we can. The link will be here and down below as always. Now, I should have noticed last week some fella on eBay was selling 100 milligrams per milliliter nicotine. Well, he was reported, and the next day he relisted. Reported again, relisted, reported again, relisted. Trading Standards visited his home in Stockport, cleared him out, and he's still relisting. So obviously that was continuously reported, and as far as we know, or as far as I know from my source, chap A, he has been arrested by the Greater Manchester Police now. It is now a criminal matter, and that happened from between Tuesday last week to yesterday. I found out all that business. So yeah, he's been dealt with. Evidently, there's some dekang e-liquids going out with the SGS labels missing, and some with counterfeited holograms. If you know any vendors that are selling it, reputable or not, don't buy this stuff. It is counterfeit or poorly made, one of the two. So remember that dekang e-liquids. There is a website somewhere. I will attempt to put it in the link below, but I don't have it to hand right now. Of course, during the week there was Linda McCavan's big internet no-no, where she was basically fixing her questions and answers and ignoring the vapors. It's come to my attention that these sort of Q&As on Facebook and webcams and all that sort of business are not actually backed by their cabinet. So it's done off her own back, not backed by their party. I can tell you now it wasn't backed by the Labour Party, from what I've gathered from my inside sources. Obviously you would have seen by now the video of the Midlands vaping mini-me. If not, obviously, well, you're on my channel now, have a look. It was a great evening and afternoon out in Deadly. Met some wonderful people, and people I've been getting to know across the two groups, Let's Vape and Just Vape. So yeah, get yourself along there, get yourself along to Midlands Vape and show your support for your local vendor who's proper. Apparently there's a market vendor there as well, not to be confused. Now, lastly, I'm going to put a picture here of some batteries that have been found. Now, it's been posted about before, batteries, ego batteries, that to be made heavy or feel like they're an 1100 and 950 milliamp hour battery, they've had nails attached to a smaller internal battery. There's even some with capacitors. But possible location of the wholesaler in Manchester. See the recurring theme here. It has been visited by Trading Standards RE e-liquids, but some egos have been discovered with nails sellotaped to the the batteries themselves. The more I get on that, the more I'll tell you, maybe even updates or something throughout the week. But this is potentially bad. Well, of course it's bad. It's you know, selling a product that isn't what it is for a start. And it only takes one of those batteries to, one of those nails to pierce that battery, and you've got a particularly bad chemical hazard there, if not a fire or an exploding battery. Now, this brings up a touchy subject that I was discussing with one of my sources last night. Whilst it is great to be seen self-policing, I'm not saying to stop self-policing. The more Trading Standards get involved with people producing dodgy e-cigarettes, I'm just wondering if it's going to have an effect on any particular votes in the future. It's just a thought I wanted to put out there, and one that myself and my friend had yesterday. However, We'll cross those bridges when we come to them. And lastly, did anybody watch the Alan Titchmarsh show last night? I believe it was last night, Monday night. Where it was a silly little audience participation vote thing, and people were saying they would rather not see cigarettes used indoors. Well, what would you rather, audience? Somebody sat there with a stinky, or somebody who's blowing out a vapour that smells, in my case, of fruit? Anyway, secondarily, it's not the first time Alan Titchmarsh has featured e-cigarettes on his shows before. Now, I remember seeing a YouTube clip some time ago of him and some ladies he was interviewing of various degrees of fame and stardom. And he seemed to be actually quite pro e-cigarette in that particular YouTube video. Now, I'm doing my best to dig that out and repost it between the groups. Now, if you're a member of other groups as well as Just Face and Let's Vape, please do spread that about and bring it to the attention of ITV that he was actually once pro e-cig. So basically he's turning around and rolling with the times, which we know TV does, we know news that and popular celebrities do, but you know, we can't be seen to have this bad publicity yet again. Sorry, I've forgotten to turn my volume down. In fact, I've forgotten to do this as well. There we go. So there you go. There's your weekly news roundup. Some particularly interesting. I think some things I've actually announced publicly before anybody else. With the Nico guy, I'm not sure, but I'm probably wrong. I usually am, and I'm usually behind the times. But hey, at least you're getting your news somewhere. I have, as always, been the Fury 79. You have always been gorgeous, and maybe I'll continue to be so even in our wonderful old age. Stay safe, keep an eye out for rogue traders. Peace. Oh, I did it with the wrong hand. There you go. Peace.